I told her I will talk something about Dhamma. And then I heard that there were some suggestions that I should speak a little bit on blessings. What are blessings in life, and what are also the causes of downfall in life. All this very clearly, those of you who are acquainted with the teachings of the Buddha, you will find that they are recorded in those two discourses, the sutta with regards to the Mangala Sutta, that is the discourse on life's highest blessings. And the other sutta is called the Parabhava Sutta, or the discourse on the causes of downfall. But this evening, I will not be going through word by word all the translation of these suttas, but what I shall do is to speak to you a little bit on the subject of blessings. And because this being, I think, still New Year mood, some of you have already celebrated one New Year on January the 1st, and there will still be another New Year coming up, right? How many New Years do you celebrate? And how many New Years are there in your calendar? There is one 1st of January New Year. Then there is, which other New Year? Chinese New Year. What else? What other New Years you have? You celebrate one other New Year. Very grand manner. Buddhist New Year. Buddhist New Year. And so there are different New Years. And for some people, every day can be a New Year day. Yes. And if you can lead that way of life, it's very good. Now, yes, you have this year particularly, or the year that is going to end, has been a very disturbing year to many people. Of course, some of you are not all that affected, but some are a little bit more affected than others. So you need greater blessings. I think these blessings, what is the meaning of blessings when we talk about blessings? Well, in the English we use this word blessings, but when we explain this term, we mean that anything that is conducive to your well-being and happiness, to peace and prosperity, that is what we call blessing. And there are different kinds of blessings, different ways of blessings. Those of you who come to temple to get some blessings from the monks, that is one kind of blessing. And in the discourse, in the teachings of the Buddha, when you come directly to the teachings of the Buddha, Buddha has mentioned what the real blessings are in life. In fact, when we study the teachings of the Buddha, we will find that the fundamental teachings of the Buddha is very little. You don't have to study very much. The fundamental is very little. But of course, all the things which have gone into the name of Buddhism, that has made the teachings into a very big mass. And so much so that people do not know where to start. So if we can come down to the very basic, the very fundamental teachings, I say it's very little. In fact, you find in the Samyutta Nikaya, there is a story where the Buddha relates when he went into the forest with his pupils, disciples. He pointed out to his disciple, one of his disciples, Ananda, and he took a few leaves from the ground that has fallen into his hands, and then he said, Ananda, see the leaves in my hands, and also see the leaves in the trees in this forest. How does this leaf in my hand compare to those leaves in this whole forest? Very little, isn't it? And this is what the Buddha says. He pointed out to Ananda that the knowledge which I give you, the knowledge which is necessary for you to put an end to suffering, is very little. Of course, the knowledge that which I know, the knowledge which I possess, is just like the leaves in the trees in this whole forest. That means there are lots of other knowledge. But the real fundamental teachings is very little. So try to master these fundamental teachings. Not only mastering, when we say master, it does not mean only to recite and to remember them by heart, but remembering them and then try to put them to practice. In other words, try to relate these very fundamental teachings into your day-to-day life. And then you will see the real taste. You will get the real taste of Dhamma, the real taste of the teachings of the Buddha. The taste is only one. The taste is the taste of peace, the taste of real happiness, true happiness. Because we say all those teachings, if they are really fundamental teachings, they will directly point out the nature of life, and they will point out the way how to overcome suffering. And of course, there are different kinds of sufferings. There are different kinds of sufferings. The Buddha explained what suffering is about. Buddha pointed out to the people they can experience for themselves. That is the nature of the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. The first is that it points out the path to end suffering. And the second thing is that it has the logic which you yourself can experience. You yourself can see for yourself and experience. That is the fundamental teachings. Beyond this, there are systems of beliefs which you have to study, which you are not able sometimes to experience it immediately for yourself. So, important thing is to get on to the very fundamental, the basic Dhamma. Of course, the Buddha has pointed out that as long as there is life, as long as there is existence in one form or another, there is bound to be some kind of unsatisfactoriness. And he pointed out how birth is unsatisfactory. There is suffering in birth, old age, sickness, death, to associate with people whom you love and to be separated from them one day, sooner or later, or to live in a certain pleasant situation, pleasant conditions, and then you have to part from that pleasant situation. Like you have been working for a long time in a certain company, in a certain place, everything is very nice and comfortable for you, you are used to them. And due to recession, you have to change your jobs, you have to face certain unpleasant situation. This is also one aspect of dukkha. And sometimes you are in a situation whereby you have to be with some people whom you don't like. And still you have to associate with them. You have to move along with them. This is also another source of dukkha. Not only people whom you don't like, but also certain unpleasant conditions. Like what many people will have to face these days. Unpleasant working conditions. And you cannot think of just, resigning and move on to another job because work is fairly scarce these days. So you have to work even though it is unpleasant. And if you take the trouble, if you have the proper attitude, a mental attitude to see, then you can very quickly understand the truth of the teachings of the Buddha. In other words, you will see dukkha. And when you really see dukkha, you will know, you will want to get out, and then the teachings of the Buddha will become very relevant to you. Until such time, what you do is just listen and put all the teachings somewhere. Sometimes you just store it in a cupboard. And until such time when you really begin to see the unsatisfactory situation of life, the unsatisfactoriness of existence. And then I will say that the Dhamma is very helpful, will be very helpful to you. Now let us speak a little bit about blessings before we come back again to the real Dhamma. And those days, more than 2,500 years ago, people had various kinds of ideas and views and beliefs about what are the things that can bring them prosperity. What are the things that can bring them happiness in their lives? And mostly they cling to different kinds of what you call signs, omen, what you call bad omen, good omen and bad omen. I'm sure many of you will know something about this good omen and bad omen, good sign and bad sign. Sometimes you see I have forgotten all this good omen and bad omen, no? I was told when I was young, and when some dogs come and they, excrete right in front of the door, that's supposed to be good or bad? Good, isn't it? And that's what my grandmother used to say. And so what happened was, I actually saw, and there were a few occasions when I opened the door, and it was on consecutive days, successive days. Opened the door, only the first thing I saw was a big lump of shit there, and so I have to really identify whether it is dog's one or human one, because I heard that human one is bad luck. So every time I see, I realize that it is dogs. So it's good luck. So waited for the luck to come. And but I do not know whether good luck came or not. But I knew I had to clean that place. Anyway, there are some also people believe that if you have certain plants in your house, and if that plants happen to flower, you will really, you will prosper, isn't it? They have very strong belief in that. Although some people say this is superstitious belief, but if you look carefully, there may be certain element of some scientific basis you can find in this. Because if your home is calm and peaceful, if those people living in your home have a very good mind and pure, and they don't have a lot of worries, and they don't fight, and they don't quarrel, they don't bear hatred and grudge with one another, then it is quite natural that the house, there will be good vibrations in the house. And when there is good vibration in the house, plants also will respond to the vibration. Not only plants, some animals also, like the dogs, will come to your house. Because when more dogs come to your house, more dogs will dirty the place. But of course it is good luck, because your house, you are quiet, calm, peaceful. When there is peace and happiness in the house, then the other members of the family can concentrate. And when they can concentrate, they can solve their problem, and they know what are the things, how to invest their money, and how to do another business, and how they can prosper when they have some quietness and calm of mind. So these are all good signs. But don't just cling to that sign. If you only cling to that and you do nothing about it, then the chances are that you will have to spend a lot of money on all these things. So these are the signs. Nowadays people cling to this sign. Those days also, 2,500 years also, people have clung to those kind of views. And in fact it is said that not only the human beings, but also the devas, the gods, the celestial beings, they were also confused. They also did not know what are the real values, real blessings in life. Because a lot of human beings, they go to the devas and they bring offerings to the devas and they pray to them. And they asked them for blessings. So the Devas also, they were not so sure what are the real blessings for these people. So they had a gathering, they had an assembly. All the Devas assembled on one occasion. And then they discussed among themselves and they decided to appoint one representative to go and approach the Buddha. And this is where this certain Deva, his name is not given, but he was coming from a very high realm. We know this because his body was very radiant, very bright, very luminous. And it is said that he came down and he approached the Buddha. At that time, the Buddha was residing at Jetavana monastery, in the monastery which was built by Anathapindika, that very rich, wealthy man. So when it's a very big area, now also you can go to India, you can see the ruins, Jetavana monastery, the ruins in Sravasti. It is now called Sahit Mahit, that place. And when you see that, it is said in the Mangala Sutta how when the Deva appeared, the whole monastery, the whole grove was illuminated, was brightened up because of the luminous body, brightness of this Deva. Then the Deva approached the Buddha and asked the Buddha, saying that there are many men, many human beings, not only human beings but also deities, devas, who are not so sure about what are the highest blessings in life. Can you please tell us? And it is on this occasion that the Buddha preached this, what you call Mangala Sutta. And the first advice the Buddha gave to this Deva, it is not only for the Devas, but it's also for all human beings. This advice is, many of you may be acquainted with it, Asevana cha balana, panditana cha sevana, puja cha puja niyana, etam mangala muttama. Asevana cha balana, not to associate, not to follow, not to imitate the ways of the fool, bala, but to associate with the wise, panditanancha sevana, to associate, to serve, to attend to the wise, to follow the ways of the wise, the learned. And here, when we mention about the wise and the learned, you may think that when we use the word learned, oh, then he must have a lot of knowledge and scholarship. He must have all the degrees, ABC until XYZ behind his name. Well, from the Buddhist point of view, when we speak about learned, a person is learned, you find this in the Dhammapada saying, a learned person is one who is calm, who is peaceful within himself, and one who knows how to overcome sufferings. Such a one is a learned person. Nowhere in the teachings you find that a learned and wise person are those who have a lot of knowledge. But again, the Buddha did not say that we should not have much knowledge. You should have knowledge, but just knowledge for knowledge's sake alone is not sufficient. You have to you have to know how to apply whatever you have learned, whatever knowledge that you have. You must know how to apply it in your day-to-day life so as to be able to overcome problems and suffering. Then you become a truly learned and truly wise person. And this is what the Buddha's advice was. The first advice is this: to avoid the company of the foolish, to associate with the wise, and to honor and respect those who are worthy of honor and respect. Now, this is a very important stanza. In fact, if we practice this, we can overcome a lot of unnecessary troubles, a lot of unnecessary worries. Most of our sufferings, most of the problems that you have, you will find that they are directly or indirectly caused due to certain association, wrong association. To begin with, in order to have prosperity, material as well as spiritual, important thing is to have good friends, good company. When you do not have good friends, then whatever money that you have earned, whatever property that you have, can just dwindle away. Who are your friends? Most people consider their friends those who are their kaki mahjong, kaki botol, they are their friends. They say, oh, how come my friend has not called me for so long time? And you ask them, who is that friend? That one lah, always, and they refer to that. The gambler, the drunkard, those people who like to loiter in the streets, then those people who like to go to the nightclubs and frequent women, and some women frequenting men, that is the womanizer and manizer. So these are the kind of people who many people consider them as friends. But from the Buddhist point of view, we don't consider them as friends. So please go back and check your, what you call, diary, and find out how many friends you are left with. Of course, don't go to that extreme. Don't strike them out yet. Be a good, know who you should closely associate. Associate does not mean to say that, oh, you just cannot mix around with them. But don't follow them. Don't follow their ways. Because if your mind is not strong, then very quickly you can become influenced by them. This is where all the drug addicts and all these various kinds of vice rings come about due to wrong association. And so to have good association is very, very important. That is why it is very important to maintain such Buddhist organizations, Buddhist temple like this. And those of you who come and contribute and continue your support towards temple, one of the main reasons is to bring people of similar goals, of those people who like to listen to good things. In other words, like to do good. This is what is meant by when you have this kind of association, you will have the opportunity to associate with such people. And this is